Hello, my name is Barbara Dyke. I am from Leander, Texas, which just is north of Austin, Texas. In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a broken needle or how to remove your needles if you're cleaning the machine. Now, we're going to use the Passap DM manual. If you do not have this manual, I have put it on my Yahoo group, Barbara Dyke's Passap Lessons at yahoo.com. You can get a download and a copy of the manual from there. Now we're going to be looking at page 86 of the manual, where it shows us that we have to pull out the needle rail in order to free up the needle. And when we remove a good needle, we must close the latch hook and pull it out. And when we put the needle back, we must open the latch hook and put it back. Now in the manual, they say to pull the needle rail out by removing your two-color changer first. You don't need to do that. Just make sure you pull it out on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side. But right now, we're going to let you know about a few things. In here is a spring. And if we mess up any part of that spring, you're going to have to replace the spring. So we want to be real careful when we replace a needle or remove the needle. Okay, I wanted to show you a picture of the spring. It goes the full length of the bed, and it's a very flimsy. And this is what holds the needle in place so that the machine will knit. The first thing we have to do is to remove the needle rail out far enough to release that needle. Now the old needle rails were like this on both ends and did not have an easy way to get the in and out of the needle rail. So what you can do is you can put a piece of masking tape on one end of the needle rail, and that way when you slide it in and out, you have something to grasp, because you don't slide this all the way in, you leave it out that much. And that way you have something to grasp. Now the new ones on the newer machines, most especially the E6000s, have this little lip on it, which makes it easier to get a hold of it and to pull it out. Now your needle rail is right here, and all you got to do is just pull it out far enough to feel the looseness and the lacing of that needle. Now I have moved the needle rail out of the way far enough so that I can remove this needle. You see how nice and wiggly that is compared to this one, which it has no wiggle? That has still got the needle rail in its way, holding it and keeping it in place. And got this nice play. Now the best way to remove the needle, a damaged needle, is to use wire cutters. As you can tell, I've used these wire cutters for years, and I just don't have the hand strength anymore to use this small of a wire cutter. So I'm now going to use this big one. So we're going to put the needle all the way up. Now we want to make sure that we cut below this latch, because we want the damaged needle, we want the head of the needle and the latch removed. So we don't want this. And we also don't want this to fall into the needle rail and mess up our spring. So if it does happen and you cut it off, and it does, you can take a magnet and run it along the rail, and it will pull up. The magnet will catch and pull up any of your parts that you might have lost in the machine. So, but we want to be real careful. So we're going to cut this needle off below the latch part of the needle, and we need to be real careful because it will go flying. So it just flew off into Never Never Land. So basically we have now removed the latch hook, the latch and the needle hook. So now we do not have anything that's going to damage our machine. So all we do is we grab it by the butt of the needle and gently pull it out. Now if you were removing a good needle like it was for cleaning, you would want to make sure your latch hook is closed. You want to make sure your latch hook is completely closed, and then you pull the needle out. Now to put the needle back in, if you're replacing a needle or putting back your needles after cleanup, you want to make sure that this latch hook is open. Do not get started in going there and then reverse it. So in other words, if you're pulling it in and then all of a sudden you reverse it and decide, oops, something's going wrong, and you pull it, that latch hook, that hook of that needle is going to grab your spring and break it, and then you're going to have a more major repair, because you're going to have to replace that spring. So the latch hook is open. I'm going to gently guide it in, and now it's in place. Now I'm going to replace the needle I cut off. Again, my latch hook is open. I'm going to slide it in. Now I've got my needles, 2 needles in place. See, they're wiggly. So I'm going to just put them down, and now I'm going to push my needle rail back into place. Okay, so now all you have to do now is push your needle rail back in, and that secures your needles. And that's all there is to with placing a needle.